Marmellata. Bistecca.
Excuse me? I don't know.
I'm doing an Italian lesson.
Oh, I was like, we have some foreign man in on our. Are you preparing for next year's vacation?
Maybe.
Okay, so now I have to, how do I copy the link, and then there's a lot of video of me doing this. like I'm a fish. Compose, right click, paste, and
Io bevo la limonata.
Oh.
all right, I think we're good now. We're streaming live, although it's not in real time. See how it's kind of funny to watch. It's like delayed. Okay. Oh, I keep forgetting I got to go down here. Why are we not? Okay. All right. So the only person I know, Ruth won't be here, obviously, and Julie Bond's mother-in-law is having a procedure today.
Oh,
Some kind of, I think it's some kind of heart procedure. So I'm thinking this is going to be the world's shortest board meeting ever.
okay.
But we got to have 2 more people to have a quorum.
Can you see me, Gina?
They
Good
have 2
morning.
minutes.
Here's Janine
I'm here.
and Wendy. So if Charles hopefully went to Marionville.
Well, Jada said he was going to, so.
Yeah. Of course, it's still 2 minutes to 9 according to my computer. So is everybody doing okay?
Fine. How are you?
I'm excited. My daughter bought me a bike for Mother's Day.
Oh,
If you're on
my.
Facebook with me, you can see my picture with my powder blue bike. Now I just have to stop being scared that I'm going to fall off and bust my knee.
That wouldn't be good.
You're not going to fall off.
I probably will. It's one of those old fashioned, it's a cruiser. So there's no handle brakes. It's, you remember how you back pedal to brake? There's no speed. It's like grandma bike.
Okay.
I don't
That's
care.
okay. That's okay.
And
There's Katie.
good. Now we have our quorum.
Okay.
Yay. Hey, Katie. Oh, there you go. Are your kids going to entertain us today?
Possibly.
Wendy's cat is entertaining us.
Oh,
Just like a typical cat, you got to see their hind end. Always put it in your face, you know.
Goodness.
So let's see Mr. Piter.
Yeah. Let me text.
We know Julie, we got 6, 7. Who else are we missing?
That's it.
We're only at 7.
Yeah, remember, Ruth won't be here and
Well-
Julie, so we'll only have 6 total of the board members. We've got 5 right now.
And him, should that be 6? Okay.
And where is Jana here? I'm going to text Jana and ask if maybe she's having technical difficulties.
Whose clock?
That's mine.
Who was that? Wendy?
Janine, that's our clocks.
Ah.
They're supposed to chime at the same time, but there's two and they never do, so we have to hear it twice.
They're lovely.
Old grandfather clocks that my husband's father made.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Well, while we're waiting to start, I did get finished with my parents' estate. The house closed yesterday, so that's completely done.
That's great.
My dad's in the hospital, or he was in the hospital. He's in rehab now. So this has worked out really well for them to be in assisted living because mom's not by herself. And she told me yesterday she fell 3 days ago and didn't want to tell me, but my brother told on her. So I said,
That's
oh,
okay.
well, I guess it makes a difference, doesn't it, when you have some place that will help you get up and not the, paramedics. So
Uh-huh. Are they quarantined?
yeah, she's,
Assisted? Yeah.
my brother broke her out of jail yesterday,
Mhm.
is what she calls it, so
Yeah.
that she could go. She had to actually do the closing.
Here's Mr.
So,
Piter.
hey, Mr. Piter.
Hi.
Woohoo! All
Hello.
right. Well, Gina, I
And
think you're good to go.
Yes, ma'am. I'm going to sneak on out of here, but I apologize. It was up real good for us a while ago, and then, it just was one of those lovely glitches. So I apologize.
That's what I figured would happen. So we
Hey,
have
let's
2 people watching us. I just wanted to check and see how that's going. Okay.
Let's call this meeting to order. First item on business is minutes of the April meeting. Has everyone read them?
Yes.
We need a motion to approve those minutes. Jan, I need a second.
I second.
Okay,
Me.
in favor?
In
Aye.
favor? Aye.
Everybody
You
raise
have
your
to
hand.
speak. You have to
Aye.
speak or,
Aye.
okay,
They all eyed.
motion carried. Financial report.
Okay, so in April, we collected $82,636. And from here on out, we won't probably see much. Of course, we only have 2 more months in this fiscal year that are left. So we pretty well collected what we're going to collect. I have a feeling this coming year, we're going to see a lot of delinquent funds because I think people aren't going to be able to pay their taxes, but hopefully I'm wrong on that. So year to date, we've collected 1.856, which is pretty good. So my estimation last year, we've exceeded it. So that's means we're in pretty good shape. Of course, some of those are the funds that we transferred into the building account. So, and I never figure that into my estimation. And then in expenditures, there's wasn't a whole lot going out because we were not open. So a lot of the branches weren't being used. So
Mostly utilities.
And of course, staff salaries. Otherwise, it was just pretty much stuff that had to be paid or things that, bills that we had coming in from things previously. So we expended $123,236, which is about half roughly of what we spend in a month.
Because that's the salary.
Yeah. So we are in checking operations at 1.2 million, down from April of last year and down from April of 18 as well. But that's because, again, we've had some pretty big expenses that have come up. So, and we still have a roof at Mount Vernon,
And the furnace.
and the furnaces at Aurora are still pending. So probably will come out of, maybe will come out of this year's budget. It may be next year's, but at any rate, we're doing pretty good. We have 632,000 in the reserve funds for Monette and 182,000 for Shell Knob.
Okay. I need a motion to approve the financial report. Thank you, Mr. Piter. I need a second.
Wendy,
Second.
Cindy,
Wendy went.
Okay.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried. Circulation stats.
Well, there's not a whole lot to report. Did you like the big fat zeros on the
Yeah,
circulation
that
report?
was,
Um,
next
so-
year will look much better.
Oh, well, we can hope. So basically what I did is I told the branches to go ahead and submit their monthly reports because we still have to track even if it's zeros. So, you know, in future years, somebody can look back and go, what month was it that they were closed for the pandemic? And also because we're going to have to report on this to IMLS at the end of the year or to the library, whoever, that the state makes us report. So at any rate, so we did have, I can't tell you how many because I didn't calculate, but we did have a number of added card holders, and that was a number I could give you, the total number of card holders, because when we started doing e-cards, Leanne was able to add several people with e-cards. So on the MoLib to go or overdrive, I just wanted you to see that we did have 2,845 checkouts, which is about 600 or 550 more than last year. So that's quite a bit of use for where we were seeing a decline, remember, in use for that. So now that we have an uptick. And then in Hoopla, wow. I mean, 2696 this year compared to 1141 last year. So people are really taking advantage of Hoopla. We did, just to remind you, we did up the number of monthly checkouts. We're doing that through, wasn't it July 1? And then we'll reevaluate. I know that we are pretty close to hitting the budget level that I had set during this time, because we have so much per day that can be spent. And I kind of played with giving us about $500 more a month, and then limiting the top price that people could check out. So they can't check out the most expensive items because I needed to balance it somehow. But I think the average checkout's like, what did I tell you? It was like $2
Yeah.
or something. So that's not too bad. So I'm real pleased with that. And then, of course, there's nothing to report on the miscellaneous page because we didn't have any computer use. I did ask Leanne if it was possible to see wireless users. And so she did this after I'd already done the report. And we don't know how accurate this is, so I'm not going to report it on my statistics sheet, but I did want to tell you about Wi-Fi. So it looks like she was able to run a report on the whatever you call the devices that extend Wi-Fi, whatever. I can't think of the modems, or you know what I'm saying, right? The thingamabobs. Okay. Sorry, I've lost my words. So Aurora had 8, Cassville had 27, Eagle Rock had 4, Marionville had 48, Miller had 2, Monette had 52, Mount Vernon had 23, Pierce City had 6, and Shawanob had 8. And those are our parking lot Wi-Fi users. So that's really not too awful bad for the month of April. If in fact this is accurate, it could be higher. I'm thinking it might be higher than this, but this is the first time we've tried to do this, and she played around with it. So at any rate, I'm pleased to report that has gone pretty well. I know here at Monette,
I've seen people sitting out in the parking lot.
yeah.
Oh, we have people sitting out here between the buildings on the ground when I get here at 5:30 in the morning.
And they like to sit between the garage and the
In the
building.
building.
And it's kind of creepy when you come up and they're all kind of gathered by the door. They've
So-
been nice, I mean, but
But it is a little strange.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then on the programming side, nobody counted things quite the same. And so it's kind of hard to compare apples to apples, but we had approximately 115 virtual programs or Facebook shares about information, sites that you might want to look at, that sort of thing. And from the rough count that I got, we had about 12,000 views on those. So that was just during the month of April. We had some locations doing concentrated virtual programs. Some of them didn't. I sort of left it up to them. So you can see that on the very short branch activity report. I think Mount Vernon was really, wow, I couldn't believe how many things they did. So, and as we mentioned last time, Julie was doing all kinds of story time. So I thought that was kind of fun. So,
Jean-
and those,
I noticed on Mount Vernon, it said the Veterans Home Story Time. Is that virtual? It has
Yeah.
to be, because, okay, I just wonder where she goes. My father's up there and they're quarantined, and right now they're even quarantined to their rooms. So I'm kind of wondering where that is, so I can let him in on it.
yeah, you would, if you call and talk to Edwana,
Okay,
she's the one that does it. I'm not quite sure. I think she said on the sheet, but I've already filed it. I think they had a call in. No, I don't know quite how they did it,
Okay.
but
I'm just curious.
she does the story times every month, and they have about the same number of people every
Okay.
month that attend.
Okay,
So yeah, that'd be good for your dad.
okay, thank you.
The good thing about virtual programs is it doesn't matter which branch it comes from. Everybody can view them, which
Right.
is different from, in-house
Mhm.
programs. If it's at Mount Vernon or at Cassville or whatever, you have to go there. But we were talking about this for summer reading. That's really exciting that when we start putting those events out on our calendar, we have the potential to have quite a few attendees that we haven't had before in some of these programs. So we're excited about that. It's a little scary to venture down the virtual program path, but I think we're up for the challenge. And so that's pretty much it on that.
Okay. Director's report.
Okay, so I really didn't have, we only met 3 weeks ago and there's not been much going on. So I didn't do a written report, but I do have a couple of things to share with you. One of the libraries, I meet with the Southwest Library directors every Thursday at 1 by Zoom. This has been kind of cool in a way because I meet with the public library directors on Tuesdays, and we've all agreed we'd like to continue to do this for a while. It's been super beneficial to hear from people across the state, and it assures us that we're all in the same boat. We're all trying to do the same things in varying degrees. And so it's just nice, but the same with the Southwest directors. It's nice to see what's going on in our corner of the state so that we're not doing something drastically different from each other, which could create havoc. But Jody up in Nevada, she shared this little card that she had. They're actually letting people in their building right now, but of course, one library, smaller location, easier to control. And so she said, instead of putting out a whole bunch of signs that people don't read anyway, which is the truth. We don't want to litter up everything. People know it's better to wear a mask. You can, or, you don't have to. We're not requiring it. We're asking people to, but when we start, but You know that you're supposed to socially distance. You know that we're going to have limited. We don't need to tell people that. They're adults. They'll figure it out. But instead, they created this card, and so that has a bunch of information. And so when a person comes in the building, they give them the card and their time that they have in the building, their limited time, and then that way they can't say that they weren't given the rules. And so Greg created one for us. I didn't have time to save it because there is a way to share, which I'm not sure I'm up for that right now, and to fumble around. But he created one for us to hand out to our customers, and so I think that that'll be really beneficial. And we'll get these printed up and have them out to the branches in the next couple of weeks, depending on what we decide at today's meeting. Janine shared with me a letter that Carolyn and Rebecca sent to her from Pierce City. It says, "Dear BLRL board members and administration, we can't tell you how much it has meant to us and our families that we have not had to worry about money when there are so many other worries out there. Thank you for supporting us financially, but also with your thoughtfulness and prayers. Your kindness means so much to us. We appreciate the careful way in which you have approached this situation and worked with the uncertainty. Your planning has eased our minds." And then from Mount Vernon, and there's another one here too. You want to open that one? It says, "Dear Gina and Joyce, thank you for taking such good care of us as staff. We really are thankful for your caring and leadership." And then they each wrote, some of them wrote little individual comments on there as well. And then from Miller, "The girls at the Miller branch wish to thank you for continuing our pay during this closure. Our libraries are wonderful places to work." And I read an article last night from the Public Library Association about libraries that have furloughed and laid off staff, which i.e. laid off means you're fired basically, because a lot of times you can't, it's just the way it goes. And I read in some cases, the boards were really, really good. They were thoughtful with the staff, even though they had to furlough and lay them off. But then there were other boards that just said, boom, you're gone. And it was, the directors were left to deal with the fallout from that. Of course, we're in a different situation here in that we are our own taxing authority, which means we're not relying on city funds or county funds or state. I mean, we have some state funds, but it's minimal compared to the overall budget. So that makes it easier. But I want to thank you because this could have gone an entirely different way. And it still could, but you guys have been great and so supportive. So we have continued to pay staff their full salaries. They are working modified schedules right now. Some people, it just depends on the location, but now that we're doing curbside delivery, everybody's working pretty much every day. I have 2 employees, one that's out on medical leave, and I have another who's requested extended leave due to medical issues. But other than that, those 2 people, everybody is continued to work some. So that's what I said, you've got to at least be working some of your hours to continue to receive your regular pay. So that's kind of where we're at. I don't have anything else really. Things are perking along pretty well. As far as I can tell from here and from just sporadic comments from other locations, the curbside's going pretty well. Our courier deliveries started back Monday. And so all the stuff that comes in from the courier right now will be quarantined, just like we quarantine our items, because we don't know how long. I mean, at first we knew how long things had sat in the warehouse, but now we don't know. And so just to be safe, we're quarantining those items before we put them in our customers' hands. So,
And we're all the branches are answering their phones again. And that has been, yesterday, we had tons of phone calls, and, you know, they have a lot of real good questions. They've been very, you know, thankful that we're doing service at all. But they're really making appointments for curbside. They're making appointments for computers. You know, they're putting their own holes on for curbside service. So we've had a lot of phone calls this week. And I think, and so far they've all been very, very, you know, positive about everything. So, we're hoping that that means that everything will go well when we open up.
we do have an opportunity, Leanne and I and Jana and Greg discussed yesterday what we wanted to do, but we do have an opportunity for from state funding to apply for a grant called the CARES Act grant. It's the money, the federal money that came with the stimulus package to the state library. And so they had a discussion with all the library directors about how we'd like to see that money be spent. And since we're at such a disadvantage with broadband access across the state, the CARES Act grant gives you the chance to do several different things to provide more access to your customers. So of the variety of things we could apply for a grant for, one of the things that we really discussed was doing hotspot checkouts. So Leanne is investigating that with T-Mobile because from what I hear from the directors that company has got pretty good coverage, pretty good customer service with different libraries. So we'll be exploring that as well as some equipment to upgrade our virtual programming. We'll have virtual programming here at Monette as a centralized location, and then a centralized location at Cassville with the better equipment. So if branches want to come in to Monette and film or go to Cassville and film, then they'll have that opportunity with some more professional equipment, or they can continue to use their own phone, but we wanted to give them that opportunity. So we're going to get webcam and computer and a green screen. So maybe we'll have fish, you know. I don't know anything about green screens. They'll give the weather report. So
Hey, Gina, this morning on the Today Show, there was a segment about libraries doing coronavirus tracing. Have you
I
guys?
saw that.
I saw it.
We've not been asked to do anything like that.
Now they are doing it on the East Coast.
Yeah, that's what the
There's
thing is about.
several around Alexandria and the DC area, and I know other places north of there, but they're doing a lot of that in their libraries. And I guess it's, you know, it's going over pretty well, actually.
What struck me from the Today Show story was the librarian said how appreciative, even though it's kind of scary to think you're being tracked, and I know that really upsets people, but what she said was that people appreciated being checked on because that's what they're doing. They're making phone calls, checking to see, have you had the virus? How are you doing? Who have you been in contact with? But I think it's the human to human contact that we're so good with, that's what I got. The takeaway from that was people really still need that one-on-one, you matter sort of contact, even when you're doing all this tracing, trying to figure out who's been where and how the virus spreads and all that kind of stuff. So, and it was a good way for the librarians to still be working when the libraries are closed and not be furloughed or laid off. So,
Right.
and boy, their library looked super clean. I was like, wow. So that's,
Gina, is the only way to do pickup through phone?
no, you can email the branches. If you go on the Facebook page, there should be a sheet or a blog post that tells you how to do that, and it should have the branch email address. So And I think a lot of the branches, I'm pretty sure most of them called all the people that had holds and some of their customers to let them know that they were open. So a lot of people have had some contact without being able to look on the website, because we know not everybody uses internet. So that's,
I just wanted to add, I received a thank you note from the Miller girls as
oh,
well.
good.
I did too.
I did too.
I
And
did too.
several of the branches are still doing the home deliveries. They're just doing the no contact home delivery and picking up stuff. But it has to be left on the porch, and then they leave theirs on the porch, call them or knock and let them know they're there, kind of like Burger King. But that's gone over because we've had people call that were pretty glad to be able to get something new. And so that's, you know, most of the branches are continuing to do that too.
Okay, no, we don't need to approve a director's report. A written report.
Mm.
I don't have a written report, so I guess
To
Mostly
approve.
it's just, you know, just chit chat.
No old business, new business, reopening the library to the public.
okay. So I sent, did you all get the document from yesterday? Okay. So, this is my thought is I think we could reopen on June 1st, which is a Monday, to limited exposure to customers. We talked about this at the supervisors meeting last Friday, because I wanted to have something to present to you today, so that we could, you know, because we won't have a board meeting again until June, pretty much towards the end of
The
June.
budget meeting.
So I wanted to have something in place for you all to at least talk about and share your feelings if you think it's too soon or we need to extend, you know, push this back some, because we can continue to do curbside, but pretty much the comments I got from the supervisors, I think they're all pretty okay with going ahead on the 1st. And so I didn't want to give a definitive end date, like it's going to be June 1st through August 31st. August has 31 days, doesn't it?
30 days in September, April, June, and yeah.
Okay. So I have to use my knuckles, you know how you do.
No, I do the same.
So,
Okay,
so I just said maybe through the end of the summer, and that we'll review this plan. So we would review it in June. And if we decide we want to go back to having more people in the library or you know, upgrade our capacity, make some changes, we can do it at that time, but we probably need to give it a few weeks. I'm anticipating maybe through the end of the summer, but I don't know. It could be that right now we're seeing in our 2 counties, little to no cases, but we don't know what's going to happen a month from now, or, you know, so I just want to leave it open-ended if we can. It seems to be most libraries are doing about a 30-minute time frame. So that's what I thought would be good, is that as we let people come in, they can stay for 30 minutes at a time, and then continue to do 60 minutes at a time for computer use by appointment. Or we can just say it's 60 minutes as you just come in, and if a computer's open. The appointments have gone pretty well. We've, at least here at Monette, we haven't had very many people come in to use the computer. Once the capacity is reached, they can wait in line in 6 feet increments, since that seems to be the standard right now. And then it's 1 person in, one person out, 1 person in. In order to keep track of customers, we got dots, and whoever's monitoring the door, they'll write down the time the person has until. So if you came in at noon, they would write 12:30 and stick it on them. So we kind of can monitor who's in the, who needs to leave. And there's no argument about, well, I've only been here 10 minutes. No, you've been here 30 minutes. So all the branches got dots except for the small ones, because I thought I could just unroll this and send a few to each branch, but that was pretty flawed because these little dots come off pretty easy. So I went and bought some different stickers for the smaller branches, and they'll have them when they need them. I asked all the branches to sort of review how their staffing levels were, because I don't want to fill positions till we kind of see how things play out. We're probably going to have to fill Mount Vernon's position with the children's person with summer reading coming. So I think we're going to have to do that. I'm just cracking up because I see the cattail.
Yeah.
Sorry. It's like a squirrel moment. Okay. I'm just not sure. We have some part-time library assistant positions that are open. And so I told the branches to plan on worst case scenario. If you could not fill your positions, how would you be able to run your library hour-wise, day-wise? And so that's what you're seeing here. Pretty much everybody decided they were okay with having consistency. So we'll be open Monday through Friday for the branches that are open Monday through Friday, 8:30 to 5:30. And then Saturdays, we'll just go to half a day. So there are only going to be 3 locations open on Saturday. So we'll have up north, Mount Vernon, in the middle, Monette, and then Cassville down in the south. So we can at least have some Saturday hours. And we took Saturdays out of Aurora's equation. They have one person out on extended medical leave, and they're down 1 part-time position as well. And so right now they're only staffed with
3 full-time and 1 part-time.
1 part-time. And so Saturdays, it just wasn't going to happen. So I've told the branches, because we're going to have to monitor who's coming in and out, you've got to have at least 2 people there at all times, because you got to have 1 person watching. And so it can be kind of dicey in these locations that have fewer staff. Then I did on the looking to see if I had it. There was a formula on the governor's page on COVID-19 on how to figure your capacity level based on your square footage. Of course, that's if your building is empty. So for example, Aurora, their square footage is 6,900. And even if you take out the 1,000 square feet roughly that they have for the meeting room, it's still 5,900 square feet. That doesn't account for all the books and the desks and the office and all that. Then you're supposed to divide it by 30 and multiply times 0.25. So when you do that, they could have 49 people in the building. Have you been in Aurora? There's no way you could socially distance 49 people in their building. So, and that's like Monette could have 38. There's no way 38 people could be in this building. We'd be,
Elbow to elbow.
we'd be elbow to elbow. We have had, for programs, we've had 200 people.
But they were sitting on top of each
They
other.
were sitting on top of each other, crammed into a small space, which there's no way we could do now. So we decided, the branch supervisors and I pretty much decided we would do 1/4 of what it said. So that's where we came up with these numbers is, so Aurora, instead of 49, we said 12 patrons. And that's in addition to the staff. That's not including the staff. So that means that we're still under that required number. The only exceptions to that were Eagle Rock came out to about 4 people, and we thought they could have 4 people at Eagle Rock pretty easily. And the same with Miller. They said here they could have 11, but we went with 4.
I think they maybe had 11. at one time.
Yeah, I'd be kind of happy if they had 11 people. I think it's story time. Sometimes they've had 11, but at any rate, that's kind of where we came up with the numbers. I just didn't pull them out of my head. So, and we'll see how it works. It maybe we need more, we need less. We won't know till we do it. A lot of businesses are doing this, and I think we should be one of them, is that the first hour, Monday through Friday, should be for seniors only. And I tried to make it clear that you can't be a grandma and bring your 5 grandkids with you, because that defeats the purpose of the first hour. So it's really only for the senior citizen, maybe the spouse, and that's it. And if you're medically compromised, so if you're 18, but you have a major heart problem or cancer or whatever,
Or you use a walker,
or you use whatever it is, we'll take your word for it. But obviously you can't bring, your 5 grandchildren with you, because how would you watch them anyway? But we have removed all the children's toys, all the stuffed animals, all that stuff's put away. There's not going to be anything nothing for the kids to do, because all those germs just can't happen. I'm saying that we can only have about 2 family members at a time. So if you bring your 5 children, be prepared to only bring one of those children in. And the rest will have to wait in the car. So we'll make sure that we advertise this so that people know ahead of time. And we may flex a little bit on that. But otherwise, you could have a family of 10 come into Monette and nobody can come in for 30 minutes. So, and children under the age of 12 must be accompanied by a responsible parent, party, adult. I've already told you about the time limits. Staff is going to only be able to offer limited assistance from a distance, because we need to discourage the side-by-side breathing in each other's spaces. We're asking patrons to wear protective face masks. I did order 1,500 face masks and from Amazon, and according to the website, they're on their way. So I'm hoping we get those next week, I think is when they're supposed to be here.
Some of that we had to cancel because they wouldn't give us the shipping.
The face shields, we've been waiting and waiting and waiting. And Joyce and I talked about it yesterday, and the face shields are for staff, because in lieu of putting up those plexiglass shields, which are very expensive, and I didn't know how we were going to really do that.
They
And
wouldn't work at most of the
honestly, I don't think they're very helpful. At least in the places I've been, the staff still is not protected. So the shields, and at any rate, it suggested when I checked on the shipping that we cancel the order because it's been so long. So I ordered from a library company called Janway, who's really stepped up to the plate for libraries, and they're offering all kinds of PPE just for libraries. And we've ordered several things from them, and it's a little more expensive, but I'd rather pay a little more and actually get the stuff. So it wasn't hugely, I think, $50 more than what,
We've
original.
gotten most of the hand sanitizer. We've sent several gallons to some of the branches so they can refill their own little bottles of hand sanitizer. And that way they keep up with what they need. We've gotten the bags that they use for the books to come back in. There's several things that we've already received. The one thing that you can't get hardly anywhere is Lysol. You can't get spray disinfectant practically anywhere.
I found some at Walmart. I bought 2. They didn't limit me to 1. So it's something called Odo Band, but it said disinfectant spray. So we have a little bit.
But if any of the staff finds it anywhere, they will buy what they will let them buy, and then we reimburse them for it.
This is the one time we relaxed on.
You can't order it on practically anywhere.
So the idea here is, if we're asking customers to wear a protective face mask and they don't have one, then we can supply one if they're willing to do it. We're not going to force. I don't want my staff shot or argued with. I saw, that was the other thing on the Today Show, a pretty ugly interaction at Costco.
Mhm.
We don't, people are already tense enough. We don't need to make it worse. We can protect our staff, but you can't make everybody comply without ugliness. And I just don't, we have enough to deal with without having to deal with that. We are, however, going to enforce if you're coughing and display signs of illness, you cannot come in the building. They can still request curbside pickup service if they don't want to. I know, for example, our church is going to start back with services the first part of June. I'm not going. I'll just continue to watch it live streamed because I cannot take a chance. There's too many people relying on me. So, and I have too many health issues. So, we are still encouraging customers to return the materials in the book drop. Many of the branches have already come up with receptacles at the entrance where we'll ask customers to drop their material that will be quarantined for the appropriate amount of hours, 72 right now. And then the items will be checked in. And some places are wiping them down. Some of them aren't. Pretty much the virus should be dead by that point. So it just depends on how long our supplies will last for that. Because even finding Clorox wipes is very difficult.
Sam's Club.
And
Sam's
and-
Club has wipes.
did they? When I
Yeah.
was there, they didn't, but
Supposedly in 3-packs.
wow. I was able to get
Yeah.
some thinner canisters of them. And so several of the girls here went to our Walmart and got them. And I think Aurora got
But no, we
some.
had, fortunately, because we keep those and use them all the time, we actually had 26 packages of those. And the ones that I get are the 75s, which are the big ones, and they'll last a brand. Well, they always did, quite a while. So we already had some of those. So all the branches have been supplied with those now. And hopefully they'll last for a little while. And, we kind of go from there.
We're trying to make sure everybody got 2 masks that Connie Kerbo made. So they all have cloth masks. We'll have the what do they call them? Non-medical masks, the paper ones that will have for the customers, but also for staff to use if they prefer those. I'm not forcing staff to wear masks. I'm asking that they do to protect themselves, but, and then we'll try to adhere to strict cleaning protocols. So if a customer touches something, we'll wipe it off. We'll spray it down. That includes the copy machines, the stapler, the chairs, the keyboards, the mice, everything. And if worst case scenario, we'll get some liquid bleach, which seems to be showing up now in more quantity, and we'll dilute it and we'll use that. So we'll just do the best that we can to protect the staff. That's what we have to do. Customers are taking their life in their own hands because they're choosing to come in. But the staff, if we're requiring them to come to work, we've got to protect the staff. So that's my main concern. We already are offering no contact home deliveries. We'll start doing low contact outreach and virtual programming throughout the summer. And for right now, meeting room use is suspended indefinitely. I've made 2 exceptions. One is Pierce City wanted to know about voting, and because their meeting room is separate from the branch, so they could have people in and out. I agreed to let them do the voting because that would make it hard for Pierce City because there's not very many places to set up voting. And then the census people needed a meeting room space in Cassville to hand out, I think it was to hand out equipment. And again, theirs is in the bottom. It doesn't affect the branch. And so I agreed to that one thing. But other than that, no meeting room use. I think we can't just make exceptions, and then why even have a policy at all? But I think for right now, it's just better. And some of our branches will be using meeting rooms to store chairs because before we open, they're all going to have the branch ready to go where it might be one chair per table. In some cases, no chairs, except for somebody who might be handicapped, to encourage people to get their stuff and move on. And the same with the computers. Some locations like here, except for a couple of areas, ours are already pretty well distanced. But Cassville, for example, she's either going to have to move the chairs, take the keyboards away, something to keep people from sitting down and using those computers. So it just is what it is for a while. This is our new normal. I don't know what each month of the summer will bring, but I think we just do the best that we can and keep the staff as safe as possible. So what you'll need to vote on what you think in this instance, because it
affects our regular operations.
So what do you all think?
It sounds reasonable to me.
And this is what pretty much everybody's doing to some degree. Some people are starting sooner, some libraries are starting later. It just depends on their location and their situation.
If we do run into trouble, is the wait time for our June meeting going to be too long to reevaluate, or can you guys handle things between, when we reopen and then?
We could always have a 5-minute board meeting. I could send you a Zoom link and say, we need to meet, which is the nice thing now that we know that this works pretty well. We could do that if there's a problem that we sort of like when we had the emergency board meeting in March, we did it earlier.
Right.
Now we have the capability to just have a quickie meeting. So the good thing is, because we have that staged reopening plan, so this will be stage 4 of that plan. We pretty clearly say in there that we could go back to stage 3, we could go back to stage 1. It just depends on what the state or federal and so forth authorities are telling us we need to do, because we don't know. They keep saying we could have a second wave. I hope they're wrong, but I think it's possible with all these people. I mean, Walmart was full yesterday. Madeline and I were wearing masks. That's the first time I had her out with me since this started. And it was crazy how many people were in there, not socially distancing, not wearing masks. It was, we got in and got out. So.
We had a lunch at the VFW for VFW members. And it amazed me that virtually none of them understood what social distancing was. They were right next to each other, touching each other's canes. It was like, you were supposed to go up to the window to order your burger, and they were all gathering around the window. It was like,
want to take a can of Lysol and just,
Yeah,
I probably
got my burger and left. So there's a lot of people who do not understand social distancing.
There's also a lot of people who think that we're going too far. And so they're purposely not socially distancing because they think we don't need to.
Yeah.
Pierce City had their graduation and there was no social distancing and no one had a mask on except me and my husband. And there were lots of people. The whole stadium was full. I saw no mask except mine.
At least they did it outside.
Right, I know, but still, they were shoulder to shoulder.
And we just had 8 new cases in Springfield since last Sunday.
I don't doubt it.
Now in Cox South. So
I bet we'll have more.
It'll be interesting to see if anybody in Pierce City gets sick or not.
I
So
know.
far,
They
we've
don't-
been pretty lucky in this part of our state. So,
I know.
of course, we don't know what's not been reported either.
Yeah,
So do we need to vote on this, or isn't it just part of the plan we already voted on?
I think so.
It's just the fourth phase of it, so
Yeah.
I would think.
I
we
think it's just
wouldn't
you
have
all
to.
agreeing that June 1st sounds good to you.
Yes.
I think it
told
sounds
the-
good if we can come back and revise in case something happens. I
Mhm.
think,
Yeah,
try it and see what happens.
yeah. That's
And
why,
the worst thing that would hurt us would be in any branch if we had any employee that tested positive. That
Right.
would be the worst thing that could hurt our system.
Mhm.
we would just have to shut
Because
down.
then
And,
it's an automatic quarantine and you can't do anything about it.
Right.
and that's a thing I think we have to be prepared for, since we don't know what's going to happen with our finances. I
Mhm.
think we're going to have to be prepared to temporarily shut down branches if we can't staff them, because we
Mhm.
can only spread staff so thin.
Right.
Has anybody had any negative comments about how we're doing this? Has anybody had any positive comments about it, or just not any comments, period?
I've had lots of friends excited about the curbside delivery starting this week. They were really happy about that. I've also heard some comments just about the temporary cards and being able to get online. My kids, we've set them all up with Hoopla accounts, so that's probably why your Hoopla is getting bigger, because we've added 4 more people to Hoopla. So those things have been really nice. I think just to give people a sense of normalness,
Mhm.
where the library is concerned.
That's
Now we've had a lot of phone calls the last couple of days. People that, they get notified when their card's about to expire, and they're anxious to get it renewed because they're going online, and their card has to be in good standing in order for them to get online. And we've had a lot of pickup on that. They've had a lot of people. That's okay. It's just, anyway, but we have had an awful lot of phone calls about setting up appointments, and the curbside seems to have been a real popular thing. And they don't seem to have any. So far, we've not fielded any negative comments about it. It's like, that's great. I can get new stuff, but I don't have to be around everybody.
Right.
So far, we'll see.
That's Murray called me for an article, which, by the way, I never told Murray, if you read the article, that Shonab was adding on to their building. I don't know where that came from. If you saw that, I
No,
love you, Murray, but I didn't say that. Sorry. At any rate, it was a pretty nice article that he wrote, and he was asking me about things before the tax levy vote that we might want to talk about. And Katie, that's one of the things I talked about was, even though we were closed, we tried very hard to offer services, whether it was parking lot, Wi-Fi, or e-cards, adding for Hoopla, all those things, the databases that we added, the Creative Bug, being able to offer Rosetta Stone, which we won't be able to afford to continue after July 1st, I think it is.
Yeah, just the initial period.
Because it's like $9,000 a year. And I think they've only had 6. I think yesterday the rep wanted to know how it was going. And I said, well, can you tell me how many people have actually used it? It was like 6 people. So,
yeah.
which is why we've never done a learning language thing around here. We weren't sure it would get enough use. So, and most people really like Rosetta Stone. That's what we've always been begged for. So I'm kind of surprised, but not really.
Well, if you think that, this is a trial and they won't be able to continue it, why bother starting it?
And if we see enough use of it, we can explore. There are other learning language things that we could do. And Rosetta Stone has one that's more limited that I think is half the cost. which would be like $4,900, I think is what it was. So we could explore that too and try to see if we could get somebody to fund it for a year.
I wonder Babel.
Yeah, they've been pushing Babbel big
Mhm.
time. I don't know anything about Babbel. It may be like Rosetta Stone was in the beginning, and they don't mark,
They
they
said
only
it's-
market to individuals.
Yeah, they said it's easier for people to learn that. They don't say anything about cost, but you know,
So, we'll see what happens. I didn't put that on the agenda, but we do have the tax thing coming up June 2nd. So encourage your friends to vote yes, which you can as an individual, not as a board member. And I can't say that to the public, so.
So we could each make a list of 30 people that we personally know and quietly try to just get them to turn out, and that would be legal. Okay, girls and
You have-
boys, let's do it.
You have a
Come up with 30
constitutional
people.
right to express your views when you're not speaking for the library.
and we don't care if they only have 50 people show up at the polls as long as 48 of them vote for us.
Or 50.
Well, that'd be great too, but that looks a little contrived. So, you know, but
So. Okay, so June 1st sounds good to you all. We'll talk again about this at the end of June when we have our board meeting. So. And I'll let you know how things, I'll try to keep you in the loop if there's anything that comes up that's weird or whatever. Otherwise, you can assume things are going pretty well.
Okay.
Will Greg be
Sounds
doing
good.
more Facebook posts for the election so we can share those? And
Yeah, I'll talk to him about that. We do have the postcards that will be going out
okay.
right before to the registered library card holder voters that have voted in the last so many elections, just to remind people to go out and vote. Of course, that's all we can say is please vote. Your voice matters. So maybe that'll be a good reminder for people as well. We're sort of, how much do we want to publicize and get people against us? We've talked about being a little more stealth, but I don't know. Even the school, I don't even see much about the school right now here. Because they're trying to get money to build another school.
Right.
oh, there's the clock.
There's the clock.
Must be 10 o'clock.
It is. Mm.
Okay, the policy edition.
So along with the stimulus package and so forth, there was a new policy that came out. So basically what I've written here is really what's the federal guidelines for what's called the Families First Coronavirus Response Act. And so basically what this act does is it gives people 6 different reasons why they could be paid sick leave. This sick leave is not earned sick leave. It's not something they've been working towards. This is just a flat 2 weeks of sick leave that we pay, period.
Yeah, if they meet the
If
criteria.
they meet the criteria. So basically what I've written down here is what's outlined in the policy. I stole a lot of this from somebody else who'd already done one, and then I added some things that I thought would be helpful for our staff. But right now I have one staff member who her reason is number 3. No, number 2. She's advised, well, she has to get a doctor's note, but she wants to continue to self-quarantine because of medical conditions. So we've had a conversation. I did call our attorney that we've used in Springfield to ask for an opinion on, because I didn't know how all this worked. I've learned a whole lot more. And so he kind of gave me some information, which is basically what is on this sheet, and told me what she would qualify for and what she needed to do in order to qualify. So
We have one that definitely would qualify because she's in the process of taking chemotherapy.
yeah,
And her doctor absolutely would not let her
come back.
come back at all. But that would at least help her in a 2-week period that she would still be, paid for
Now this is for part-time and
full-time.
full-time people. With full-time, it would be 80 hours. With part-time, it's 2 weeks of what they would normally, the average of what they would normally be paid as a part-time worker. So they don't automatically get 2 full weeks of full-time pay. Does that make sense? And then I won't go into, but other than we were talking about this, we only have maybe 1 or 2 people that have small children. And so far, nobody's asked for the child care exemption things on here. And it's a lot more complicated. Joyce would you have to pay 2/3 of the regular pay, blah, blah, blah. So at any rate, so the employee has to request to take the emergency paid leave either orally or in writing. And the same thing goes if they're having to do it for childcare. Then if after the 2 weeks is up and they feel that they still need to quarantine for whatever reason, then if it's for illness, they're going to need a doctor's note that says they have to extend beyond that to use their sick leave. Otherwise, they can take their vacation. Our regular policies apply at that point on. Because I learned from the attorney, which I need to call and get more clarification, is because we have less than 50 employees, we don't have to do FMLA. So I think we probably, we could continue the way that we have, but I guess legally we don't have to provide FMLA. But we also have in our policy, they can do request leave without pay or request extended leave. So we do have things in place in lieu of this, and they always get to take their sick leave and vacation first anyway. The FMLA just was extending that for a longer period of time. And honestly, we've only had maybe 1 or 2 people since I've been here that have requested FMLA that had to actually use it without pay. So at any rate, you all have to approve all that anyway, whether it's FMLA or leave without pay or extended leave. So I'm going to explore that more because that kind of bothers me. But then I did add a statement here that if an employee is out for extended leave, that we will do our best to return them to their original position. However, if it's been eliminated or there's no equivalent position available, their job is not guaranteed. Which is harsh, but it is what it is. We're kind of in a situation where we don't have a lot of slack anyway. So if we have to fill a position, when you come back, there may not be anything available, or it may not be in the location. If you're working in Monette, you may end up going down to Shellknob. I mean, then it would be your choice if you want to do that. I'm just making that up. And then employees should direct all the questions to the director.
Okay. We need a motion for the first reading. Wendy? Second?
Katie?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried for you oppose it? Jan? Jan, do you oppose? Yes, you oppose? Turn your speaker on.
You're
You're muted.
you're muted, Jan.
Am I now?
Nope, you're
Oh,
good
You're
now.
fine. You put your hand up for no.
Sorry, didn't mean to.
Okay,
I think her video is a little delayed. I think that's what's happening.
could be, could be. Okay, now we have the second reading. I need a motion to approve the second reading.
So moved.
Katie
Katie and Charles.
and Charles. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. It's now part of our policy. Okay, any other business? Then I need a motion to adjourn, please.
Hey, wait a minute. I just wanted to say that I really appreciated the thank yous from the staff, but I really appreciated Gina because without her planning, we wouldn't have been able to do what we did. So thank you,
Right.
Director. You do a great job. And it was nice to be able to offer them that. Thank
Yeah.
you for making that planning
Very-
and making that possible.
And I tell you, the planning was made so much easier because the library directors across the state share with each other. And so I did not have to completely come up with a plan from scratch. And during this time when it's so stressful, that made such a huge difference. I could take something that was already down and modify it to work for our situation. And sometimes maybe a little extreme, but I'd rather be able to pull back than have to add to something.
Right.
I do, before we adjourn, I do want to say, June is our big budget meeting. So I delayed it. Usually we meet the third Thursday, but in June, sometimes we meet the fourth Thursday. And that just gives me time to come up with more numbers. Last year, I think we met the third, but I know it's going to take me a little while longer this time. I haven't even started, which by now I've already run at least one, draft budget, and I haven't even had time to do that. So I'll be working on that. And just to remind you, we have to have a budget in place for the new fiscal year by the end of June. And then typically we take July off. We may not want to do that this year because we do have the ability to Zoom where we can do a quick meeting, but we typically take it off because of vacations and it just gets hard to get everybody together. And we've worked, we have that late meeting in June. And then August, we'll review the budget again because that's when I'll have the actual total final numbers from June, which we won't have for the meeting because the whole month's not up. And then I always call that the real budget. So, because we'll have all the numbers at that point and a better idea of what to expect. So,
And we'll also have the results of the election,
Mhm.
which might change things drastically.
Wow. Yes. I'm going to set myself up not for failure, but I'm not expecting, I don't know what to expect. I mean, everything's kind of gone out the window the last few months. So I don't know I'm hopeful, but if we fail, then we're going to need to come up with a plan to go right back to the voters quickly and not do what we've done in the past, which is wait years and years. So.
Right.
Okay.
And all that's up in the air too. So.
Right.
Okay, so we need a motion to adjourn. Charles?
So moved.
Second?
We could have sent pizza over there.
Janine and Katie raised at the same time, so you can.
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
No, let's
Motion
stay
carries.
another hour.
It was that big
Okay.
director's report that delayed everything.
Thank you all so much.
Take care.
Thank
See
you.
We'll see you next month, if not sooner.
Okay.
Bye-bye.